Today is Transfiguration Sunday, the apex of the liturgical season of Epiphany. Apex, which means the tip, the point, the summit. That's my new word of the week, apex. Some really like this story of Jesus' transfiguration and the liturgies and hymns that usually comes with it. And to be totally honest with you, I'm not really one of them. Not that there's anything wrong with Transfiguration Sunday itself, beside the fact that I'm struggling to say the word transfiguration. It's just that every year we read essentially the same story, regardless of which gospel it comes. Every year we hear that Jesus took Peter, John, and James to the top of the mountain. His clothes turned dazzling white. Moses and Elijah show up to talk to Jesus. Peter wants to build little tents, and the voice of God said, "This is my son, listen to him." And every year, as a minister, I have to find ways to explain the meaning of this rather strange biblical story. Since the 2nd century, this story has been the subject of much speculative interpretations. Maybe believe this is a post-resurrection appearance of Christ that was simply misplaced in the Gospels. Others make the link between this event and the Feast of the Booths or Tabernacles, during which Jews celebrate the protection God offered during their wilderness and wandering in the wilderness by building tents, huts. You know, Peter, the tents, the huts. Maybe the most creative explanation for this transfiguration phenomenon comes from the presence of the words, "Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep." You see, some believe that Jesus brought his disciple at the top of the mountain at dusk, and when the full moon began to shine, and its light illuminate, transfigured Jesus, and his shadow somehow was perceived as the two prophets, Moses and Elijah. We have to acknowledge this is very creative, hardly plausible, but very creative. Now, the main problem today with understanding the transfiguration of Jesus is that we live in an age of science and technology, and everything ought to be explained logically. Dead people, how great they were, do not come back to life, even as ghosts. The color of her clothing and the tone of her skin cannot be changed suddenly. The sound made by the clouds is not God's voice, it's the thunder. We believe in God. Yes, we believe in God, but in an intelligent way. And most of us are convinced that only feeble minds still believe in some sort of magical miracles. How the 5,000 were fed by Jesus with only 2 fish and 5 loaves? It's simple. People had brought bread with them on that day, and they began to share with one another. Voila! We are rational people looking for rational answers. We want hard data. We want numbers. We want facts on which we can anchor our religious lives. We want to know God and find the precise words to describe accurately our faith. On this Sunday, we will have our annual general meeting. And as usual, Glenda, our office secretary, at work many hours to pull together the multiple reports from our different groups and committee. Ron, our treasurer, gave us numbers and details in his 2015 financial report and also a proposed budget for 2016. In the pages of our annual report, we also find statistics and information about the various projects and events we hold. There we can read hard data, numbers, facts about Kanata United Church. And yet one can wonder if this document tells the whole story of our congregation. Does it totally explain how we have been the people of God during the last year? Is there more to our story or our stories than the word printed on this paper? I don't know if you remember, but last March we had the incredible opportunity to welcome John Bell in Kanata United Church. For those who missed him or don't know him, John Bell is a minister of the church with the Church of Scotland, and his primary concern is the renewal of congregational worship through music and liturgy. We know how many people attend this event here in this church. We know the amount of money we made this weekend and how it really helped to balance our 2015 budget. However, there's much to say about this event. For 2 days, John Bell made us sing beautifully, and it felt easy, which is not a given for some of us who have been told that we should never sing in public. Empower us by reminding us of what we do on Sunday morning when we sing. It's not a recital, it's not a performance to an audience, but a prayer directed to our all-loving God. And since this passage, there is a new energy in our music ministry. I cannot prove it or I cannot demonstrate it, but I surely can feel it. A few days ago, we had what I hope to be our first annual bazaar with the Kanata Muslim Association. It was a huge success. We had about 20, 30 volunteers from each community who come to help us. And we raised exactly $2,620.80 for Syrian refugees. Imam Sikander and I hold a question and answer session that lasts for 45 minutes. Very great question. It was a wonderful day. However, those numbers do not tell the whole story of this event. If you were there, I don't know if you'll look inside our kitchen during that day. There were many women who never really worked together because some of the women belong to our community and other belongs to theirs. And also our Muslim friends do not have a building, a mosque, where they can cook and host events together. Nevertheless, they all work side by side and very efficiently to eat the food, to serve everyone, to clean up all the plates, mugs, and everything else that need to be cleaned. I don't know if you noticed that day how some teenagers greeted everyone who walked into this building. And on top of this, on that day, they moved many boxes of books for our book fair. I don't know if you notice, the people who sat down and chat our cafe we improvise in the fireside room in this building, some of them who never met each other prior that day. I cannot present you a mathematical model explaining why so many people were involved in such a way, but it surely happened. It surely happened. And a few days actually next week, we will have our huge book fair here at Kanata United Church. And it's certainly the craziest time of the year in this church. Almost everything stops, so we can set up 50,000 used books everywhere. I'm not making that up. 50,000 used books everywhere that's been sorted out and moved around all year long by an incredible amount of volunteers of this congregation. We will open our door on Thursday, and depending on the weather, there will probably a lineup outside. And we will end our sale on Saturday afternoon. And when people will come on worship on Sunday morning, the place will be spotless as if nothing happened during that time. We will raise several thousands of dollars that are essential to pay for our various expenses here. And yet, all those facts are not telling the whole story. Have you noticed that most of the newcomers to Kanata United Church usually choose the book fair as their first involvement with their congregation? Have you noticed the amount of pastoral care given to one another, not the minister, lay people, to one another when they are calling books in our old portable? Have you noticed the amount of people with lower income, and yes, there's some in Canada, who comes to our event and can afford to buy books, good books for themselves and for their children, like everybody else? I cannot give you specific names or specific examples, but it's surely a reality. There's so much more in our stories, so much that goes beyond hard data, numbers, facts. The outcome of everything we do cannot be quantified, explained, demonstrated. We cannot seriously say A plus B equal good stewardship or the best way to live our faith in this world or in our neighborhood. On so many occasions, the question is not necessarily what have we done, but rather how have we behaved. Through all that we have done together, have we felt the presence of God? Were we inspired by the words of Jesus? Did we let the Spirit moving among us? And I believe the same could be said about the transfiguration of Jesus. We can spend an unlimited numbers of hours trying to understand how it happened and what does it mean exactly. We could look for hard data, numbers, statistics that might help us to find interesting answers. We can do all of this, but yet it would probably not tell the whole story. Because on the top of a mountain, 3 men lived a brief taste of the divine. They had one of those intense experiences that have the power to transform lives. And even if they did not receive scientific proof, logical arguments, or new knowledge, they fully experienced God. They did not necessarily know God, they experienced God. They might not have a clue what happened exactly that day, but they knew it surely happened. On many occasions, we believe that faith, spirituality, or what we do together here at Kanata United Church ought to be understood, quantified, demonstrated. We are looking for ways to explain God and explain God's presence in our midst. However, the story of the transfiguration of Jesus reminds us that sometimes it's not about knowing, it's about experiencing. Sometimes we are simply invited to be touched by the unexpected. We are asked to go maybe beyond logic, maybe beyond explanation. We are called to taste, to feel, to experience God and how God can be with us. Amen.